Christopher Lloyd, whatever. We're going to go into him as an actor or as
Lambert.
It's not Doc from Back to
That
the
would have been
Future.
amazing.
I'll tell you, Marty, we got to go back and fight for combat, Marty. We got to do it. There's something wrong with your kids. They get killed by Liu Kang. No.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me are my co-hosts, Ash Let's Dance Schlafly.
Hi, y'all.
And Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And each week we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatthemovies.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, you can subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Watchmen, and Ash and I are just wrapping up season 3 of American Gods. Find all that information and past episodes at shatontv.com. And finally, to hang out with us live all week long, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatthemovies.com/Twitch, where we play video games, host watch parties, and end each week with a Shappy Hour cocktail party at 9 p.m. Eastern. And speaking of Shappy Hour is actually the genesis of today's podcast. You might notice that it was released a little off our normal cadence. Normally we're a Tuesday night release once a week, but this is a bonus episode that we're bringing you specifically as it was asked for. People noticed that Mortal Kombat was coming out April 16th on HBO Max and wondered if we would do Mortal Kombat, the original, before its release. Now, Big D is meticulous about keeping the calendar out until 2022. What are we now, June of 2022 or something like that?
That is correct. June of 2022. Get your commissions in now.
So we certainly wouldn't want to bump anybody's movie because we've got anniversaries, we've got birthdays, we got special dates that people were promised, and we never want to be late with the pod. But we did want to squeeze this one in a little bit out of order. So rather than bump anybody else, we're putting in the extra work to give you an extra episode this week, this bonus episode. And the way it came to be is we just asked the Shappy Hour audience, would you be willing to chip in $100 to have this bonus episode recorded? They got together, I think within the first 10 minutes of us asking, threw together the money. So you have Shappy Hour to thanks. Again, if you want to join us there, it's shatthemovies.com/Twitch. And our Shappy Hour is every Friday night.
Yeah, Gene, I think it's a good idea because with the commissions being so far out, I know our price point, we want to adjust it a little bit, but we want to make it so the commissions are balanced, that people can afford it and that it's not 18 months out. So I think offering like this premier kind of cut the line without affecting that, I think is something interesting. We actually had somebody write in and said, I really would love you guys to do So I Married an Axe Murderer, but I don't want to wait until June. So I said, I said, that's interesting. I said, well, what kind of bribe are you offering? So we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I know we have another bonus episode coming up after this, which will be The Great Outdoors. So maybe this will become a regular thing.
And again, these things won't be like every week. So don't be like, where the fuck's my Friday episode, right? These are as time permits. So Ash and I are currently doing American Gods. Once we get clear of that, when we do have some extra time, we'll slip those in there. But our primary episodes will still come out on Tuesdays like clockwork, thanks to Big D's hard work in editing. Well, Mortal Kombat is a 1995 American fantasy martial arts action film written by Kevin Droney, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, not to be confused with Wes Anderson, produced by Lawrence Kasanoff, and starring Robin Shou, Linden Ashby, Bridgette Wilson, and Christopher Lambert. It is a loose adaptation of the early entries in the fighting game series Mortal Kombat and is the first installment in the Mortal Kombat film series. The plot of the film follows the warrior monk Liu Kang, the actor Johnny Cage, and the soldier Sonya Blade, all three guided by the god Rayden, on their journey to combat the evil sorcerer Shang Sung and his forces in a tournament to save Earth. The film's primary source material was 1992's original game of the same title, but it was also inspired by and incorporates elements of the 1993 follow-up game, Mortal Kombat 2. The film premiered August 18th, 1995 in the US and was well received by fans of the video game and received mixed reviews from critics who praised the martial arts sequences, atmosphere, exotic locations, and production values, whereas the performances, the script, and PG-13 rating were criticized. Mortal Kombat spent 3 whole weeks at the #1 film in the US box office, earning over $124 million worldwide. Threshold Entertainment followed with a 1997 sequel film, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, and created 2 spin-off TV series, Mortal Kombat Defenders of the Realm and Mortal Kombat Conquest. Now, Big D, Ash, we all have Mortal Kombat as a shared childhood experience. I think we all have our memories of it. Big D, we'll start with you. What do you remember about Mortal Kombat?
So I started playing video games at the very, very beginning. I had an Atari 2600. I then moved up to the NES. After that, I became Sega Genesis. And after that, I was Team Sega Genesis all the way. So then I finally moved up and got an Xbox S, which is now already outdated. So what the fuck? But in the games that I played, I love them. And I would always go for the Mortal Kombat 1 or Mortal Kombat 2 in 93. I didn't go beyond that. So my knowledge of the characters kind of ends there. But I would always go with the ones everybody takes. You take Rayden, you take Sub-Zero. But I loved Baraka and I loved Scorpion. The blade move where you throw them up in the air, I could do that. Or also Scorpion teleporting through the ground and hopping up. You then throw the spear, pull him back. That was my deadly combo. That's it for Mortal Kombat. I didn't go any further.
I mean, I've had a love affair with Mortal Kombat that extends to like yesterday. I have always loved Mortal Kombat, the game. And when this movie came out, I was so flippin' excited. I saw this as I saw most movies in the early 90s, like I've shared before with my dad. It was just something he and I did together. And he and I played Mortal Kombat at the arcade together. So it made complete sense that we would wind up going to see Mortal Kombat, the movie, together. And I have to say, I have this very distinct memory of going to see it with him, and we were like counting down the days to it. And it was really exciting. I saved my ticket stub for a couple of months after it because I was, just really stoked about it. And I am such a big Mortal Kombat fan that our dog, who actually on Friday when we're recording this will be a year since she passed away, our dog's name was Sonya Blade Schlafly in honor of my favorite character to play as, Sonya Blade, although I do have soft spots for both Sub-Zero and Katana, but I thought both of those were shitty dog names. But I'm pretty excited about the remake coming out, and I think I was the first person to go just like completely fangirl when someone mentioned us doing this as a bonus episode, because this is a movie and kind of just a gaming culture that I've always just really, really adored.
I think Hot Sauce Steve W. brought this up and said, hey, could you guys do Mortal Kombat before Mortal Kombat, the remake comes out? I was pretty sure Big D would be excited. I had forgotten that Ash was such a big fan. And I think the audience was even more shocked. Like, wait, Ash is excited about this? She is the most excited about this. This is her movie. And I think you're going to see that in this episode. Ash, where you had your dad, I didn't. So I had my friends. But I was addicted to Mortal Kombat, the video game in the arcade. My friends and I knew all the characters. We knew all the special moves, all the fatalities. We spent hours. I don't know. Did you guys have nickel arcades where you grew up?
Yeah.
So Big D, the nickel arcade was you go pay like $10 to get in, and then every game was a nickel. So if you were planning on playing a lot, like it was a good way to spend a day, and you can get like a membership and stuff like that. But anyway, nickel arcade, we were there all the time. This is pre-internet, guys. You would hear the rumor before anything else. Dude, did you hear they're going to make a Mortal Kombat movie? What the fuck? No way. It's fucking awesome, So we found out the day it was coming out. We counted the days down. We clipped out the newspaper listing of when the movie was coming out. We used to do this shit. I'm not kidding. It would be a picture of like the movie poster with the show times.
Underneath
that shit out.
Yeah.
God, we are old.
This is like pre-movie phone. This is like pre-Fandango where you called.
I feel old like Ralphie with a decoder ring and Little Orphan Annie and A Christmas Story old. Yes, when you were a kid, there was like a network of information. There was no central place to go. You'd be like, my cousin told me that he heard there's a code for Nintendo. It's like up, up, down, down, A, B, A, B. And you're like, bullshit, that's just a rumor. So when stuff like this would come out or video games, you actually had to work to learn it. It was a community experience. I mean, Ash, do you still have that ticket stub today?
I'm one of those people that when I move, I throw too much away because I don't believe in clutter. But I mean, I kept it for a couple weeks, which says a lot for my personality that I kept it for that long. So
I'm jealous that you guys actually had somebody to watch this with. Vanessa, she's like, what are you watching? What movie? I showed her the trailer and she goes, good night.
Well, without further ado, Big D, let's test our might and get into the trailer.
In each of us, there burns the fury of a warrior. In every generation, a few are chosen to prove it.
One of you three will decide the outcome of the tournament.
Three strangers will travel to the mystical realm of Outworld to defend our people against Shang Sung.
You will die.
And his forces of darkness in an ancient tournament. One more victory.
Your soul is mine.
And our world is theirs.
It has begun!
You can't run from me, Shang!
I don't need to run.
Combat begins.
Mortal Kombat is a fighting tournament between the realms of Earth and Outworld. If the realm of Outworld wins Mortal Kombat 10 consecutive times, its emperor will be able to invade and conquer the Earth realm. Shaolin monk Liu Kang, movie star Johnny Cage, and military officer Sonya Blade are chosen by Rayden, the god of thunder and defender of Earthrealm, to overcome their powerful adversaries. Liu seeks revenge against the tournament host Shang Sung for killing his brother Chan. Sonya seeks revenge on the Australian crime lord Kano for murdering a fellow officer, and Johnny Cage seeks to prove that his martial arts skills are for real.
So this movie, if you haven't seen it in a while, opens up with the Mortal Kombat logo and the font directly taken from like the front of the arcade game. And then all of a sudden, you know, the voice screams, Mortal Kombat! And then those chords, you have, dun, 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 dun. And y'all, I was fucking hyped sitting on my sofa. Like, this song, I think, is one of like the best theme songs from the movies from this time period. And I think all it does is just get you like jacked up to sit there and watch a bunch of B-list actors fight it out, and a movie that's just going to be a plot from like your favorite video game. Like, you feel like you're like entering into your video game. And I, sitting there on my sofa, thought back to 95, and like I have this distinct memory of sitting there. I had my little popcorn and my little Coke, because we used to get the deal. $5, you got a popcorn, a candy, and a Coke. And so my dad, oh, I know, not anymore. So we both got our little deal, and we were sitting there, and I looked over at my dad, and my dad had this massive grin on his face because like he knew and I knew, and he looked at me and we made eye contact and was like, fuck yeah. Like, we didn't say that, but like telepathically we're like, fuck yeah. And for 95, like, this was such a badass experience. And when this kicked up, watching it just in my house, I felt the exact same thing.
Hearing it again took me right back to that movie theater seat 25 years ago. This whole soundtrack is great. And they even got Sister Salvation in on a fight scene. I am fucking sold.
Okay, it's a good song. But is it really 5 or 6 times in a movie good?
Yes.
Gene, you were complaining about Watermelon Sugar, okay? I'm going to read you the lyrics to this song. Test your might. Test your might. Test your might. Test your might.
You got to put
Mortal
that in there.
Kombat. Fight. Mortal Kombat. Excellent. Excellent. And then we're going to go through and list the characters. Kano, Liu Kang, Rayden, Johnny Cage, pause, Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Sonya. Now let's repeat that 4 times. 1 taco from Taco Bell. It's yummy. 35 tacos. You're like, oh.
I would eat a taco box from Taco Bell because it's delicious. But that being said, what this theme song does is it's literally like the soundtrack of the game. Like that's what they're doing. It's all the little things that the game will say to you, and it's all, it's naming the characters when you're in that selection. It's badass. There's no way for you to not defend this song, Big D. No leg to stand on.
Big D wants some like AC/DC, like, when the powers of Outworld are coming to the Earth realm.
Rayden shooting lightning from the sky, Sub-Zero. Yeah, give me something like that.
What's the song in Transformers? You gotta race to the top when they're stuck in the fucking shark pit. It makes no sense. I'll take this any day over that bullshit.
But at no point in this selection process did anyone think to say, have you ever done any action movies, any action experience, any fight training? It's obvious that part was not the important thing when they were casting this movie.
Oh, I got to disagree with that completely. Johnny Cage, Liu Kang, Shang Sung, all those guys have martial arts backgrounds. The extras definitely did. Sub-Zero and Scorpion did. So you got a couple, but like they didn't ask Rayden to be going around fucking flip kicking people. All he's got to do is shoot lightning around. And I got to point out that Christopher Lambert is immune to all casting sense, because can we talk about the Highlander? Like he's playing a Highlander alongside an actual Scotsman and Sean Connery, who's playing a fucking Spaniard. I think that when Christopher Lambert steps on to the casting stage, they just go, yeah, let him do whatever the fuck he wants. And Kano, they had to make Kano Australian in the game because Kano in the movie was Australian. He's supposed to be like Japanese American. He's the head of a Japanese like crime syndicate.
You got to remember also in Highlander, which we did, the director cast Christopher Lambert just the way he looked on the cover of a magazine, not realizing he didn't speak English. He did all of his lines phonetically. So thankfully, at least at this point, Christopher Lambert speaks English.
It doesn't matter if he can speak English as long as he can end every line with ha, ha, ha. It sells it, man. I mean, he's charming. But Sonya, Liu Kang, and Johnny Cage was shocking to me how well they work together, because I was very worried about this. Yep. They have great chemistry, and it makes no sense because they just met in the plot, and Liu Kang is always dogging Johnny Cage. Johnny Cage is this like ignorant, arrogant, misogynistic asshole, and Sonya has no reason to stick around after she kills Kano. Like she should be like, all right, I kill this motherfucker. Like I'm getting out of here, right? I don't want to be a part of this tournament anymore. But for some reason, I really enjoyed watching these three explore the island together. I was into it.
Who the fuck is Art? And why is everybody so upset when he dies? I mean, for God's sake, Chan actual family died. Art goes down, and it's like, no.
For those of you who haven't watched the movie in a long time, Art is like random karate guy. And I'm not saying that like you should replace the black guy with the other black guy, but this seemed like a great opportunity to introduce Jax, who is in the movie and in the game. Sonya Blade, Liu Kang, Shang Sung, and Art.
Yes.
In this part of the movie, at this point, they're taking their little boat and they're, sailing off to Mortal Kombat Island. And I had forgotten how big of an entrance that Scorpion and Sub-Zero have. So I was kind of getting antsy because like, when do they come in? Do we not? Because I didn't remember anything. I was like, maybe we see them on the island, and then they show up on the boat when we've got our little three musketeers and they're standing there talking to Shang Sung, and he brings in his big guns, which are Scorpion and Sub-Zero. And you guys have to remember, those of you who don't, or those of you who are too young, this movie came out a long time before all this fan service became the big thing that happened in movie theaters. So, you've got your Avengers franchise with, the big like Avengers Assemble that everybody's waiting for fucking, 15 movies. Those big cultural milestones happen now, but that really wasn't a thing before like Marvel and maybe even Harry Potter, some capitalized on just basic fan service and what the fans wanted. But there was this. And I remember being in the theater, and when they come in through that little door, like the theater went fucking nuts, including me. I was like, yeah, when they stepped on screen. And what was really funny is watching it, like their costumes are so fucking lame. And the CGI that they use is kind of dumb today. But even with all of that, that entrance alone was worth every penny we paid to see that movie. And that was such a huge payoff for everybody that ever played or loved Mortal Kombat. And it still kind of worked.
And it's really true to the game because Sub-Zero and Scorpion, it's the same fucking dude. The difference is Scorpion has cataracts. Like, that's the only difference between the two of them. I'm pretty convinced, Ash, that they introduced the main characters in reverse order of popularity. Unfortunately, though, this grand entrance was done on the stupidest set possible, which was the boat. On paper, the idea of a boat that takes the fighters from the United States to Mortal Kombat Island seems pretty simple, right? It's hard to fuck up. But they insisted on using this like weird tall ship that looked like it was stolen from a Las Vegas attraction.
When you say that, I think, first of all, a Mortal Kombat themed casino would be amazing. Yeah. And this to be out front. So please, somebody work on that. But I do agree with you. The boat looked terrible and it made no sense. I was waiting for like a final countdown style, like blue vortex to appear, to make sense for them to drive into, to bring them to this other dimension. And I think that was a bit of a missed opportunity. And I love the set where clearly they're on like a very static set. We're on the top of the boat, like on the deck. That looked like total shit.
And they make this big announcement as like the Death Eater symbols are flying around in the sky. They're like, it has begun, but it hasn't begun. No. Like they haven't even gotten to the island yet. The fights haven't started. What the fuck is happening here?
No, and I think this is my major problem with the movie. I understand the video game. We all understand the premise. But Ash, you hit on a problem. Shang Sung shows up and he's like, oh, okay, this character is here, and this is why we're doing this, and Sub-Zero, and he's my slave. They're going through all this time to tell us Princess Katana's 10,000 years old. She's the daughter of blah, 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 blah. Problem is, talk about the fucking tournament. What is the prize? I don't know. Why would people want to compete if they could lose their lives and their soul? What is the tournament structure? Is it single or double elimination? What's the scoring rules? Okay, is there a format? How do I win? It's inconsistent because like some of the fights, if you just kick a guy in the chest and he goes down, you get the soul sucked out. But if Katana's sitting on the beach, oh no, she could submit. She doesn't die.
Have you never how did you miss the whole plot of the tournament? Like the tournament, what's the prize? The prize is we don't get like our souls sucked out and we're not enslaved by the emperor for all time. There are 10, if he wins 10 Mortal Kombat tournaments in a row, yes, a tournament every generation, then he gets to take over the Earth realm. That's why. So why would people go and potentially lose their souls? Because then everybody would lose their souls. You're like all into like patriotism. They're fighting for America here, Big D.
No, they're not, because they get Johnny Cage there thinking he's going to get money and it's going to be good for his career.
No, Johnny Cage was fooled by a shape-shifting Shang Sung who made him believe that his master was telling him this is the way to prove your martial arts worth.
I disagree. There's got to be some prize.
You want him to get a trophy? Do you want him to get a little Mortal Kombat trophy?
No.
I mean, what the fuck prize do you want them to have?
My thing is this. If it's just the fucking punishment, hey, if you don't do this, then humanity better let everybody know, hey, world, this is important. Let's all train instead of keeping this a secret. They would have done that.
Because you think, like, if I train long enough that I'm going to be able to hold my own? No, this is why these people are chosen. They're chosen, Big D.
No. I just love the question, is it a single or double elimination? Well, you die, so, No.
See, but that's not the case. The guy with the dreads, he gets knocked down, then his soul gets sucked out. He didn't die in combat. Katana, she's fighting.
She's not in the tournament. Katana's not in the tournament.
That's another problem.
Katana's not in this tournament.
So while she was fighting on the beach, was that part of the tournament? Are we fighting in the woods with skeletons? Is that just a part of the tournament or about?
Big D, I'll give you this. So it's not fair by any means. I mean, Outworld gets dudes with superpowers. Earthrealm doesn't. What got to me was it was just never clear when a fight was part of the tournament and when it wasn't.
Exactly.
Like, if you're fighting like 12 guards, is this part of the tournament? If Reptile just comes and sprays you in the face with perfume that doesn't actually burn you or anything, it's just upsetting.
It's an exhibition.
No, you're 100% correct. When Johnny Cage runs into Scorpion in that like little forest, I'm like, okay, maybe he's going to intimidate him. Maybe, oh no, is this part of the tournament? When he then gets sucked into that skeleton world and he's fighting, I'm like, I don't know what this means because I don't know how many fighters are in this. I have a solution though, Ash. I don't want to become the guy who has a problem but doesn't know how to fix it. This is how you fix the movie and make it 10 times more enjoyable for the people who don't know what's going on because they haven't played the Nickel Arcade or haven't sat and delved themselves into the lure of the movie and the game. Here's what you do. Solution. We make the structure of the movie like Bloodsport and the Kumite. All the contestants show up. They can see each other. They size each other up. We have a leaders board / bracket like the Karate Kid and All Valley Tournament. That way we can see. We can follow our fighters' progression clearly. We know the battles ahead and what the ultimate prize is. I would even go as far as we do like a March Madness type selection process where we see that maybe it's Shang Sung and he is talking about each of the fighters' abilities and he's ranking them. Without this, I've lost structure of the series. The fights are meaningless and I don't know what counts.
So you basically want them to play like in story mode in the game today, but I think that sounds super boring. It's Mortal Kombat Island. You're fighting for everybody's souls and it's all fair game. And what I love about like the forest scene versus the beach, like they're using all the backdrops from the game itself, right? So that's why they did all those moments. That's why they do all these little interludes, and I didn't need all the explanation. If somebody's coming to fight me, I better kill him. Otherwise my soul's getting sucked. Like that's all you need to know.
You waste 10 minutes with Goro flipping over tables with a buffet and talking to Kano. You couldn't have given me a script on like why they're fighting or what the structure is?
Liu Kang is attracted to Princess Kitana, the Emperor's adopted daughter. Aware that Kitana is a dangerous adversary because she is the rightful heir to Outworld, Sung orders the creature Reptile to spy on her. Liu defeats his first opponent, and Sonya gets her revenge on Kano by snapping his neck. Johnny Cage encounters and barely defeats Scorpion. Liu Kang engages in a brief duel with Kitana, who secretly offers him cryptic advice for his next battle. I gotta argue that Kitana's advice was not really that cryptic. Use the element that brings life. Okay, well, let's see. What are the elements here? Fire, metal, earth, water, and wood. Like, Liu Kang's not an idiot. And then Rayden shows up at the scene of the fight and he drops off bucket of water. Sub-Zero is a fucking walking ice machine, and Kitana told you like 100 times. And then just to make sure he gets it, during the fight, she like shows up in the hallway, is like, And I half expected her to just yell like, use the water on him, Lou!
Yeah, so Ash, you're saying that the stakes of this, it's everybody knows, it's the state of humanity. It would be death for everyone, their souls. Rayden seems to have time to give coded messages. He's not at all afraid to maybe come out with the fate of humanity at stake and come out and tell them what to do. Imagine if in Rocky IV, Apollo Creed, he's fighting Drago and he's dying. And Rocky's like, remember the flower, bow in the wind. If he's giving cryptic tips instead of being like, hey, throw in the towel. Why isn't Rayden showing some importance of giving his fighters the best chance to win?
Big D, I think the problem is you have an issue with elder gods.
Oh.
You don't like their tournament. You don't like their advice. I think you need to connect with your elder gods, man. By the way, American Gods, Shat on TV. Check it out.
So, Gene, I can't get my structure. I have problems with my elder gods. Would it be too much to ask for maybe a training montage? Or maybe to have Rayden actually do some training or guiding? We don't get anything. I want to see them actually going through and learning fighting techniques. We get to see them improve. This way he could assist them to actually do what he wants, which would be defeat Shang Sung and stop from the impending doom.
This is not fucking Karate Kid. Like, there doesn't need to be a move from like not being able to fight to being able to fight. So there's two problems here. First, Rayden is not responsible for training these guys. Like, it isn't his job. He has no power once the tournament starts. He's just there. He's there to oversee to make sure the rules aren't being broken. And that being said, these guys don't need training. That's the whole plot. The world's best fighters. I don't know how many times that phrase is said in the movie. The world's best fighters, the universe's best fighters are being gathered together and they are participating in this tournament. And I will give you, Rayden not fighting, I did find annoying then, and I do find annoying now because I think he does have some badass powers and would have liked to see that not on Christopher Lambert, but somebody else. But he can't train them because they already have to be trained by this point.
Well, listen, okay, maybe he can't train them in fighting, but they have weaknesses. Poor Sonya Blade, she has trust issues. So maybe the group could get together and do trust falls. Maybe he could train, help Liu Kang face his fears. Yes, there's ways that he could have been helping.
Is that a movie you want to watch?
No, but that's where the problem is. That's where the problem is here. You guys would stand at the arcade or go on Twitch and watch someone play the video game for 2 hours. That's what this movie is. You're standing, watching somebody play the game. That's not what I want to do. And that's what this movie is.
Well, Liu Kang may need to face his fears, but one thing that is not a weakness is his hair in this movie, because his hair was absolutely fantastic. And when he fights, he's got this great like hairography, like it moves in such like a cool way in all of his fight sequences. And I will be very honest, I've never been a fan of Liu Kang as a character. I think that he's very self-righteous, but I thought his martial art scenes were the best in the movie. And I thought that they were well choreographed. And I think they still hold up really, really well. Although I'm quite sure, because normally if you followed us on Westworld Shot on TV, then you know that I would usually think a fight scene was really cool. And then Gene would explain to me all the reasons I was wrong. So Gene, how wrong am I here?
Yep, pretty wrong. These fights are happening at a glacial pace. I thought I was watching the rehearsal for the actual scene. Although this movie was actually like funded and produced by a Hong Kong movie production house, this feels like a very American action movie production versus an Asian action movie production where they have those long shots. Everything's happening very fast. It's tightly choreographed. Everyone in this movie is painfully slow. Even the guys who are pretty good, they're moving very, very slowly. I mean, those leg sweeps, they take an hour to complete. I had a sinking feeling at the beginning of the movie when Shang Sung is attacking Chan, Liu Kang's brother, and he's got the dude at close range, and he backhands him and then does like an inside leg kick. Both of those things are like distraction moves. That is not a fucking killing move. Maybe he's toying with them. You could see that, but it doesn't seem like that's his idea. And I can excuse maybe Liu Kang, it's his dream, and Shang Tsung's not that badass in his dream. I don't know, but it doesn't excuse the whole movie. In the movie, these moves are pedestrian at best, with the exception of one fight I'll get to later.
Well, I think it's interesting that I'm clearly wrong about the fight scenes, because I was sitting there trying to put my best fighting hat on and analyze which one of these guys in like a real world setting I would want to have their powers. So Sub-Zero's got, the water thing where he can freeze it. And then there's Scorpion. And okay, I get why people play him. I get that he's a badass. And I know that when he's in the little forest and he says, "Get over here," that was another point that everybody cheered in the movie theater. It's iconic. He's iconic. But I don't know, guys. I think his powers are really problematic, though, because so he's got the little guy in his hand, and clearly we see the weakness of it because it gets all tangled up, and then the little guy gets killed, and then, what do you got? You got a guy who cartwheels into literally every scene, which is the least intimidating move of all time. And I know this is not going to be popular, but I personally think Sub-Zero, far superior bad guy.
I mean, Scorpion's problem was the venue, right? He chose a bad venue. The forest was not a good idea, but he sees that, he corrects it, he goes to whatever hell zone that he takes Johnny Cage to, and then we get some of the most convincing hand-to-hand combat of anybody in the movie. I mean, I thought that was pretty good. I mean, yes, Johnny Cage does some weird gymnastics, but overall, the fighting here was a little faster, it was a little more direct, it was a little less bullshit. Sub-Zero, I mean, he barely even fights. He's busy making snowballs the whole movie.
But I don't understand the normal human fighters here, whether they're part of this religious cult. They don't seem to have any fear. They're going up against these like demonic shape-shifting warlocks who are absorbing souls. One of the guys, he agrees to spar with Sub-Zero. Surprise, surprise, he gets broken into a million pieces. All of these characters that are supernatural fighters. You got Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Reptile, Goro, Shang Sung. They're being built up to be these super bad. But then once we get to the fights, I was disappointed with how quickly they were dispatched. It's like in Return of the Jedi, Boba Fett, a legendary fighter, and he goes out by accidentally getting hit on the back on the jetpack and dying almost comedically. I felt these fighters deserved better deaths.
Not to be like the defender of all things Mortal Kombat, which I think I've been this entire episode so far, but I liked this because I thought it played into the game really well. So even when you're playing the video game, there's already like this disbelief that these humans are going to be able to play against these supernatural beings. When Gene and I got to play with some of our Shot on TV listeners on Twitch, like that was one of the things that we quickly determined is that playing as a Sonya Blade or as a Johnny Cage does not get you as many wins as the Aztecian guy that Sarah would play and chop me with the thing that comes out of her little kilt and, the power of the sun and cuts my head off. Like, you can't fight that, right? And I think we're seeing that here. And I mean, look at it in the game. Sonya Blade, what does she do? She gets her leg cut off, she gets her head blown off, and then she just comes right back. And I like that they kind of kept that continuity here. It's ridiculous, sure, but I mean, it's Mortal Kombat.
So I sat down and I ranked the fights from worst to best. And
of course you did.
For those of you listening at home, if you want to know which ones to fast forward through, here's Gene's guide to the fights of Mortal Kombat. Okay, the worst. Sonya versus Kano. It's fucking dog water. Her moves make no sense. She kills him by breaking his neck. I have a challenge for you. Take your husband. Take your wife. You know what? Take your fucking child and put your legs around their neck the way Sonya does and then try to break their neck. It's impossible. Physics precludes it. Like, that's not how anatomy works. Next, you got Liu Kang versus Braid guy who doesn't even get a fucking name. They're stick fighting. Okay? You got a chance to stick fight and they just like click clack with each other for 10 minutes. I felt like I was watching some sort of like really bad lightsaber duel. Like not lightsaber duel in a movie, lightsaber duel in your living room, right? Rambo 3 had a better stick fight scene. Then you got Goro versus Art. Now here we're getting into the not so bad range. Like, it wasn't terrible. Goro's finisher though is lackluster. He's got Art. Art, by the way, is the other black guy in the movie. And Goro picks him up. He's holding him. Goro has 6 arms. What is he logically supposed to do here in front of everybody? I don't know, smash his fucking head? What does he do? He like bops him and drops him. The old Goro bop and drop, right? Next up, Liu Kang versus Sub-Zero. This one's half decent, and it's all because of Robin Shou, who plays Liu Kang's work. He's the talent here. As I mentioned before, Sub-Zero, terrible. And then we have Johnny Cage versus Goro, where people finally decided to notice like the no rules part of Mortal Kombat, and you get the classic dick punch, but also Johnny Cage like running away, which is what I would do. Run away from Goro might be the way to do it. Now into the sort of good fights, you got Liu Kang versus Reptile, but only after Reptile becomes the dude in the green suit. Because that's what he should have been the whole time. The Reptile CGI was god-awful and didn't make any sense. But the absolute best fight was Johnny Cage versus Scorpion, as I mentioned, in that Underworld. It was speedy, it was brutal, it was creative. And that fatality, like the fucking autograph picture, that got a cheer out of me.
As much as I love Sonya, the fight was pretty awful. I do love that she gets down to like her original outfit for the fight scene where she's got like the cut off shorts. That was great. But come on, I get it. Not all the fights were great. Okay, whatever. We all know that you're a fighter and I'm not. And so I get that your, standard is higher, but you have to also agree, you got a little tingly whenever like Shang Sung would say something like flawless victory or finish him. Like, even if the fight was shit, that was worth the whole thing, right?
But the dreadful irony there is he's saying flawless victory when the victory was not flawless.
No, not at all.
All right, victory.
Mediocre victory. Lackluster defeat. Good effort. Those would have been better things to say.
Well, Liu Kang's next opponent is Sub-Zero, whose defense seems untouchable because of his freezing abilities until Liu recalls Kitana's advice and uses it to kill Sub-Zero. Prince Goro enters the tournament and mercilessly crushes every opponent he faces. Sonya worries that they may not win against Goro, but Rayden disagrees. He reveals their own fears and egos are preventing them from winning the tournament. So at this point in the movie, guys, we're halfway through, and we've sort of seen all that Mortal Kombat has to offer from a visual standpoint. And the casual observer might look at this movie and say, these set designs look like shit. Kind of like when we reviewed The Princess Bride and there was complaints about the backdrops. It's supposed to look like that. It's supposed to look like you designed it after raiding a Spirit Halloween in November, right? You got everything on sale. Lots of candles, plastic skulls. There's like shitty cobwebs and statues. But that's exactly what the game looked like. It's true to form.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'd have a lot more complaints about this movie if they had taken themselves really seriously. If it was like some scary backgrounds and, some really expensive set pieces. No, the game has cheesy ass backgrounds. You want cheesy ass backgrounds in the movie. It fits the tone of what they're trying to do here.
But one thing that should have maybe been returned to that Spirit Halloween store was Goro. Because Goro has held up the worst. Y'all, he looked like so much shit in this movie. He's funny. He's not scary. And I just feel like the general physics of his body would make him super easy to fight off. He's like a T-Rex, right? Like the T-Rex, yeah, sure, he had big scary teeth, but his arms, his little wiggly arms were a super huge liability of his. You could get out of his way. And that's the thing with Goro, is the dude's size, his clumsiness, they're massive liabilities. And I feel like if you can run faster than a lumbering six-armed claymation with a giant ponytail, then you're probably going to have the upper hand in the fight. And my one hope of this remake that's coming out is they finally do Goro some justice.
He's an evolutionary disaster. If you see a creature with several sets of arms, you assume that its attacking factor, its strength, the way it kills its prey or survives its fights or defends itself is the arms. But they're all short arms. And I'm trying to imagine Spider-Man. He faces off against Doc Ock, and Dr. Octopus has like baby stubs. Like he's like Dr. Caterpillar, right? It's not scary. And the thing is, Ash, they weren't even synchronized. This guy roars, and like a minute later, his arms go up. They couldn't even bother to sync the audio.
So I'm going to use your logic against you. You said the sets are cheesy because that's how it is in the game, and it was trying to stay true. Goro in the game, you know how the Nintendo or the Sega didn't have the frame rate of modern games? So he kind of glitched, Goro. Like all the fights looked like stop motion. Maybe that's why Goro sucks so bad. Or maybe they just didn't have the money, or maybe I don't know what was going on there, but it was not a success.
It's a fair point. But from top to bottom, Shang Tsung's entire army, slaves or no, were kind of just fucking ridiculous. I mean, this is a tournament of the universe's greatest fighters, and the only people who are allowed to attend are these hooded guards. What are they guarding against? Like everyone's there voluntarily. Are you guarding? Is there some sort of a buffet that people aren't allowed to use? And also, why don't they have shirts? And also, if they're going to be topless, why couldn't they be women? An entire army of topless hooded women. I'd be into this movie.
I would be into that movie too. It reminded me, I don't know if you guys watch RuPaul's Drag Race, but there's a pit crew that come out on RuPaul's Drag Race that don't have shirts on, and they come out in their little undies. Like that's what it reminded me of. And more than anything, why the fuck do they do so many flips? Like, I feel like I am not a skilled fighter. I would die immediately in Mortal Kombat. And so there's all these flips and like flexing, like the guy with the braids, he does a lot of flexing before picking up his little stick. And I feel like that's when I would attack. When they're doing the showboating and they're flipping up and down and doing their Tai Bo, I would walk up and just punch them and kill them, right?
Well, they're honorable fighters.
Fight dirty. Live.
I want to get back to Rayden here, because you guys are saying, it's not Rayden's job, and Dick, you have a problem with the Elder Gods. I just think they could have used this kick-ass character so much more in the movie, and I loved him in the game. He could teleport through the ground and pop up, besides just the lightning. I thought it was good. Gene, we reviewed with Cole Pitcock, Big Trouble in Little China. Mm-hmm. In there, they famously steal the three storms. They have thunder, rain, and lightning. And they're all weather-themed powers. That character looked so good. Why couldn't they have had Christopher Lambert look like that?
Do like they did with the fucking Jawas in Star Wars, right? Just like a hat with some glowing eyes would have been fine. You didn't even have to hire Christopher Lambert. We should always hire Christopher Lambert.
Yeah, should you? Let's talk about Christopher Lambert, because Christopher Lambert, fuck you. He's one of my least favorite actors. I think he's pretty terrible, and I think he's terrible in this. I think Rayden's super annoying the way that he plays him, and y'all, he straight up smells Sonya's hair when he's telling her weakness. He walks behind her, smells her hair. It's creepy.
If you're a lightning god, I imagine that hair sniffing is kind of a thing, because that's where like the static charge builds up. Christopher Lambert is fucking hilarious in this movie. And it's all that accent and laughing at inopportune times. The fate of billions will depend on you. Ha, ha, ha.
Exactly.
Awful.
He's not taking it serious. I guess he's got a pocket full of quarters to play the game some more. But we don't, as an audience, we got to believe that humanity's fate is on the line. I felt this was his Oscar-nominated film. He was great in this compared to everything else he's been in.
Yeah, every time he was on the screen, I just had giggles.
But was that what they were going for?
No.
Did you giggle at Rayden in the game? Like, oh, here
No.
he comes. Look, there he is.
I mean, he would go, yabba, labba, labba, it was funny. It was funny. Well, Johnny Cage comes to Shang Sung to request a fight with Goro. The sorcerer accepts on the condition that he be allowed to challenge any opponent of his choosing. Cage faces Goro and uses guile and the element of surprise to defeat the defending champion. Now desperate, Shang Sung takes Sonya hostage and takes her to Outworld, intending to fight her as his opponent. Knowing that his powers are ineffective there and that Sonya cannot defeat Shang Sung by herself, Rayden sends Liu and Cage into Outworld to rescue Sonya and challenge Shang Sung. Kitana meets up with Johnny Cage and Liu. She reveals to the pair the origins of herself and Outworld. She allies with them and helps them to infiltrate Shang Tsung's castle, while advising Liu Kang about 3 challenges in the castle: to face his enemy, himself, and his worst fear.
So as much as I love this movie, it's kind of annoying that the girl is the obvious choice, right? Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, they put her in this weird, like, cave woman / Roman gladiator outfit, which is just ridiculous. And I don't know, it was just kind of a bummer to see Sonya dumbed down in this way. You know, in the game, the gun is her main weapon. And I get that they had to take the gun away because her just going around shooting people in the head would have, you know, been kind of a boring way to end every single fight. But that's what makes her character. And then for that to be ripped away, and then for Shang Tsung to pick her because she's the chick who, of course, has to be rescued by the 2 dudes. Meh.
This problem goes all the way back to casting. So Liu Kang, as I mentioned, is played by Shou, who's a Hong Kong action star. Johnny Cage is played by Linden Ashby, who's a student of Kung Fu, Karate, and Taekwondo. Shang Sung is trained in traditional karate. And then you get Sonya. She's the standout. So Bridgette Wilson gave up the role of Sonya Blade to be in Billy Madison. So they're like, okay, cool. She's doing Billy Madison. She's not doing Mortal Kombat. We need another Sonya Blade. Who do they get? Cameron Diaz. They train her up. She studies all the martial arts, but then she breaks her wrist. So they're like, well, shit, we can't push back filming anymore. And they call up Wilson, who's now done with Billy Madison. They say, hey, do you want to come do Mortal Kombat? And she says, well, I don't know any martial arts. That's okay. They decided to teach her everything between takes on set.
Yes.
I've seen better martial arts form on first day students at Wing Chun and Krav Maga. It is ridiculously bad. She looks drunk.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to take back everything I said. Now that I've learned that, I feel for her. She showed up and they were going to teach her on the fly. You can't do that. But you know who the luckiest person in this whole story is? Cameron Diaz. She must be like, woo, yes. That wrist saved me from some embarrassment. But I want to talk about sets. We now go to Outworld. Did they even make an effort? This looks like they just found some abandoned street in some random Middle Eastern country and just lined it with like tea bag candles and like made it like some ambiance. They didn't do anything. It was just.
Did you say tea bag candle?
What are like those little tea light candles?
They're called tea lights.
Right, but don't they put them in bags? You put them in like little brown paper bags.
Luminarias.
Yeah, luminaria. Yeah, but not tea bag.
when they're tea bagging, you know,
that's a totally different party.
Tea bagging in the Outworld.
Okay, when they're tea bagging in the Outworld. I thought that set was terrible, but I kept hoping. Famously in Conan the Barbarian, when they're going to infiltrate the palace, Conan goes to a group of the priests and he goes up and he talks to him, and the priest is like, oh, don't be afraid. Come bare yourself. You're so big and so grown. Why aren't you proud of your body? And then Conan like knocks him out and they sneak into the temple. I wanted that here. They weren't surprising us. Give us some kind of callback to make us laugh. I wanted to see this team in action.
What would have been fucking amazing, Big D, if not a copyright violation, would have been in this movie if the universe's greatest fighters were actually people like, maybe like you bring in the Predator, Conan the Barbarian. Oh, yeah. That would have been fucking cool. And you don't have to bring him front and center on screen. Have him in the background, a guy that kind of looks like Conan. You can get away with that. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but I think you can get away with that.
Agreed.
Well, Liu Kang faces not only Shang Sung, but all the souls that Shang Sung had forcibly taken in past tournaments. In a last-ditch attempt to take advantage, Shang Sung morphs into Chan, Liu's brother. Seeing through the charade, Liu renews his determination and ultimately fires an energy bolt at the sorcerer, knocking him down and impaling him on a bed of spikes. Shang Tsung's death releases all the captive souls, including Chan's. The Earth Warriors return to Earthrealm, where a victory celebration is taking place at Liu's Shaolin temple. But the jubilation abruptly stops when the giant figure of the Outworld Emperor suddenly appears in the sky and declares he has come for everyone's souls. Rayden replies, "I don't think so." And the warriors take up fighting stances.
I loved the way they ended the fight scene with the fatality pause for Liu. He gets Shang Tsung over the ledge. It was so perfect. The little thingies that come sticking up out of the ground, the big spiky things with the shape of the dragon. And yet again, you've got, you know what I mean? Like, it's like getting you all jacked up. I thought it was great. And all right, I get that, like, the spinning of the souls out of him and all of that shit was kind of cheesy. But I cheered in the theater when this first happened, and I still thought it was pretty badass. And I also love that we actually got to see Shang Tsung fight, you know, that in a lesser movie, we wouldn't have gotten to see that. He's not just this big bad guy figurehead. He actually really can fight. And we get to see the power of who Liu Kang is and why he is the winner of Mortal Kombat. And I don't know, I thought it was a great payoff.
Plus, you got to hear Halcyon and on and on.
So again, it seems like this movie had some editing difficulties. Like maybe they had to get down to a certain time, or everything at the end just kind of speeds up. We get this, epic battle, as you called it, Ash, and I'm not going to go into that, with the spinny things and the spikes. We then go to the real world, and the kids are celebrating. Woo, they're running around with their flags. They're happy. They know. How did they know that the fight went this way? Is there some like a pay-per-view from the spirit world that they're watching? How did these kids know what was going on?
Because they've come back from outer world back to Earthrealm, and this is the celebration that the humans won the tournament and that the Emperor didn't win. I think it's very clear.
Yeah, just because they're Shaolin monks doesn't mean they don't have language. Somebody probably told them, "Hey, we won. You see how Earth is still here?"
And then the big face in the sky comes up and tells them they're going to steal their souls. Do the kids then drop the flags and question the truths of these monks?
This is the part of the movie that pissed me off, right? If there's two things I value in this world, it's optimization and justice, okay? Shao Kahn, the Emperor, should just be fucking shit out of luck here. You fucking lost. Like, what is the point of fairly winning a tournament when Shao Kahn's ass is just going to show up in Earthrealm anyway? He gets 7 days now to fuck shit up. Stay tuned for Mortal Kombat Annihilation.
Or don't.
Now is the time when we give our wipe scores for Mortal Kombat. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It is the twinkle in Rayden's eye as Christopher Lambert drops an epic line. And 5 wipes is whatever CGI fuckery happened when they try to animate Reptile. Ash, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for Mortal Kombat?
The CGI is awful. Reptile, Goro. Reptile looks like a really rejected Lisa Frank character. I get it. They look awful. But there are some really fantastic parts of this movie. Yes, it's self-indulgent in parts. But as far as video game adaptations go, y'all, this is pretty much the best we've gotten so far. And I think it's true to the game. There's enough narrative to make it interesting. I think there's just enough fan service there to be a payoff. I don't think it totally alienates the audience that maybe didn't play. The fight scenes, I know Gene didn't love them, but I still thought they were pretty cool. And I think what I loved the most was that this movie came out so long ago. But my 5-year-old watched this with me, and he was obsessed and has been trying to execute his sister as Sub-Zero since watching it. And I think that's pretty badass. I think it shows that it stood up to the test of time. And so I think it's just a little bit better than average. I give it 2 wipes, and I'm pretty fucking excited about watching the new one, which has an R rating, which was one of the biggest critiques of this one. So get ready for the gore, get ready for the blood, get ready for the fatalities. Mortal Kombat for fucking ever.
I do think we might revisit our wipe scores after seeing the new one come out, once we see what's actually possible. Ash, I'm like you. I was entertained, But I have to admit that this is a mess of a movie if you aren't already a Mortal Kombat fan, or apparently a 5-year-old. The martial arts in this movie are bad. And that's okay, because it doesn't have to be a martial arts movie, right? It could be a fantasy movie that features some attempts at martial arts. But also the storyline makes very little sense. The casting is awful. What it does have going for it is a strong and dear franchise. I mean, we care about Mortal Kombat. People who are fans of the franchise, they're diehard fans, and they understand this movie. They get it. It was a movie made for fans of the game. And it also has some deliciously cheesy approaches to storytelling, which I also appreciate. I mean, Ashton, you and I have talked about this several times on the pod, where if your attempt is cheese and you succeed, that is a win. If your attempt is to be serious and it comes out cheesy, that is terrible. So for me, it is a average movie, all things considered, 2.5 wipes.
So guys, for me, this was absolutely mind-numbing. As a non-lover of the video game, I played it a little bit, but I didn't know all the backstory and all the moves and remember the combos. It just seemed repetitive. It was a lot of kicking, a lot of flipping. There were somersaults. It was like watching a supercut of the worst part of every Van Damme movie ever made over and over and over again.
Fair.
Mixed in with flawless victory. Dun, 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 and then we would start over again. I felt like it was some kind of a torture device. It was trying to make me just break my spirit and just not do Shat the movies anymore. I just didn't. I wanted to see some tournament structure. I think they could have made the movie really good, yet still entertaining to the super fans like you guys. Do some structure. Let's see what the stakes are. I want to kind of see all the fighters interact. I thought it would have been really good. It would have been more dramatic. The fight choreography, Gene, thank God you just explained it to me, like what had really happened, that they didn't really make that a priority. And when they were casting, I wanted to turn it off multiple times. And I was feeling guilty because I was originally give it a 4.5. So I've had kind of some soul searching lately where I wanted to look at some of my past voting because I think I've been punitive to some movies unfairly. And I'm shocked just looking at my record of giving bad scores to some movies that I think I will need to adjust this at some point, because I was throwing out 4.75s and 5s like just candy. I was giving 5s to movies that have no business giving it. So for that, even though 4.5 is going to make this better than a lot of movies that are clearly better than this, I'm trying to do the right thing from now going forward, and I can't give this thing anything more than a 4.5. I think it's pretty bad. Unless you're a diehard of the game, there's really not much going on here that would make you come back and want to see part 2.
All right, so that's 4.5 wipes from Big D, and then Ash and I combined together for another 4.5 wipes. So the average wipe score between my score, Ash's score, and Big D's comes out to 3 wipes for Mortal Kombat.
So Gene, with a score of 3, that now ties this movie in the 140 spot with Grease 2, Commando, Christmas Vacation, Over the Top, The Boondock Saints, and Revenge of the Nerds.
And I hope you play the theme song from this like you did for Cannonball, which made y'all get up and dance, because this is the one that's going to make everybody in their cars dance.
I just want to point out that every time you guys do the Mortal Kombat song, it sounds more like Twilight Zone.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, so does Twilight Zone.
I don't know. That's Twilight Zone.
No, not that Twilight Zone. The 90s dance hit Twilight Zone.
I don't know what's that sound like?
Is
it the same song?
Yeah.
I thought it was the same song. That's What's the difference? Like 2 or 3 notes? I thought it was basically the same song.
I mean, all 90s dance hits were basically the same song, but they are different.
Fair.
Yeah, guess so.
All right, guys. Well, I had a lot of fun doing this bonus episode. We've never done this before, and it kind of worked. Not too mad about it.
I think so. And I've actually become positively encouraged by what I'm hearing about the new version of it coming out, that I'm going to eagerly watch that, because I have this now as a base, what I expect. The new one looks like they may have taken my advice even before hearing it, and the new one looks great.
What's either going to be great or it's going to be an absolute pile of shit, because it's looking like it's taking itself very seriously.
As it should.
It's gritty.
Well, stay tuned for that. It'll be coming out soon on HBO Max, and I believe in theaters as well, April 16th. And if you're used to our regular release schedule, this will not interrupt that. So you can still catch your regular Shat the Movies coming out every Tuesday. So please continue to listen to that. We want to thank all the commissioners and everybody who contributed to make this possible. Again, as we mentioned at the top of the pod, this was made possible by contributions during Shappy Hour from dedicated listeners. And we really, really appreciate all of your financial support to make these things happen. That concludes this bonus episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, hosts@shatthemovies.com. And if you'd like to support this podcast and the bonus episodes that we do, you can shop our Amazon affiliate link, complete a free anonymous survey to help attract advertisers, buy our merch, or commission your own movie. Find all that information by visiting our website, shatthemovies.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all that information on our website, shatontv.com, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by iTunes, please leave a review. That helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert, and Ash Schlafly, I'm Gene Lyons. Be sure to keep an ear out for future episodes and catch us every Tuesday right here or wherever you get your podcasts.